Welcome back to 31 Days of Horror, and we are on day 14. Now, I am wearing the same thing that I was wearing in my previous video, and I will probably be wearing the same thing in the next few videos because I'm shooting them all on the same day. Now, I do watch a movie a day. I just don't always get to recording. And so I'm going to be wearing the same thing for a little bit. Also is one of my favorite t-shirts. And so let's get into it. Today I did something a little bit different. I've mentioned in the past few movies about watching, some of the PG-13 offerings because I'm always looking for, new movies that I could potentially watch, with my child in the future, in the not too distant future, or even right now. So I'm always, looking for those kinds of movies. But so it's spooky season, and he's into it too. And so he's been wanting to watch some movies. So I've been trying to come up with things that, he would enjoy. So, a few days ago, the day that I watched Tarot, we had watched, what movie did we watch together that day? We watched Corpse Bride. He really enjoyed it when he was a baby. He didn't remember anything about it. So, we snuggled up on the couch and we enjoyed that. And so what I did today is I actually rewatched a movie that I haven't seen in a very long time. I've seen Corpse Bride more recently because, like I said, it was one of my child's favorite movies as a baby. But a movie that I have not watched in quite a while, but I have very fond memories of, is the movie Casper. And it's a movie that is a bit dated, but it's, in the spooky realm and is appropriate for a 5-year-old. So I snuggled up with my kiddo and we watched Casper for his first time. And I rewatched it, and I was rewatching it with new eyes. And I figured I would do a little bit video on something from the past that I think still has a lot of potential for today. And I also had some thoughts on what film industries could maybe do a little differently. So I think we're all familiar with Casper. Starred Christina Ricci and Bill Pullman, and then Devon Sawa. We can't forget that dreamy scene that I think all of us swooned over. I don't think anybody didn't swoon over that scene for some reason. Anyway, so I'm watching this with my son, and I had this realization that movies when we were younger had way less bells and whistles, more exposition, and more kind of like slow build up. There's a lot more character development in older films than there are now, because I have to say honestly, in most of the movies that I've watched up to this point, whether they were R-rated, PG-13, whatever, I don't remember anybody's name. But I can tell you, for certain that it's Dr. Harvey, it's Kat, it's Casper, Stretch, Fatso, Stinky. You got Kerrigan and Dibs. And so I can tell you the villains, I can tell you the heroes. And I think it's because there's a lot of character development. We have the character development at the beginning where they introduce Casper. Then you have the character development when you have the reading of the will, and you learn that Kerrigan is not a very nice lady, and she has her lawyer who's kind of a, I don't know, squidgy little man who kind of does her bidding. And then you meet the doctor, he's grieving, that he wants to be a therapist for the dead. And you meet his daughter, and she's a sweet teenager who just wants to go to school and have boys like her and live a normal life. But she's also grieving because she lost her mother. And then you meet, Stretch, Fatso, and Stinky. You know them as mischievous characters in this, and the whole story unfolds that way, but you get so much good character development that it was so impactful to so many of us as kids that now the movie is horrendously old, and we still remember it fondly. And a few jokes, or like some jokes, are dated. There's a point when Kerrigan's trying to like exercise the house, and she calls Father Guido Sarducci to come try to exercise the property. And no one today, I believe, would know who Father Guido Sarducci was. He was part of an SNL skit from back then, and Saturday Night Live was such a big deal at that time that anything from Saturday Night Live would be really easily recognizable. And then there's the scene where the doctor's face is changing into different, characters, so it becomes uh, Clint Eastwood, it becomes Rodney Dangerfield, and it becomes Mel Gibson. And at the time that Casper was made, those were significant people. Like, those were huge gets to even get that momentary cameo in the movie. And then even the Crypt Keeper. But now in 2024, the kids don't know who the Crypt Keeper is because they don't have Tales from the Crypt anymore. They didn't have the, advertisements for the TV show or, the comic books or anything like that. Mel Gibson is pretty much only known as being an actor who has an unfortunate vocabulary when he's being arrested. Rodney Dangerfield, I don't know if anybody would recognize. He sadly passed away, and I don't think that a lot of his work has carried into, the current generation, at least not that I've really seen. And Clint Eastwood is now unfortunately known by most of the current generation as an old guy who talks to an empty chair. They're not really known as the powerhouses of Hollywood that they were back when Casper was made. Which leads me to the reason why I'm doing this video. As I said, I was going to do something a little different here. I don't really need to review Casper. It's been out for long enough that if you've seen it, you have an opinion on it. And if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. I think you would enjoy it, but some of the jokes are going to be dated. You might not get them, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with not understanding a joke that essentially wasn't meant for you. It was meant for audiences back when the movie was made. That being said, I have talked about in other videos that Hollywood really seems to be on the reboot and redo and sequel, requel. Like, there are no original story ideas out there. And I get it. But on the other hand, there are plenty of films out there that haven't gotten an opportunity to really shine because they have a great story, or they have a great, like maybe they're based on a book and they had a great book series they were based on, and then the adaptation that they got maybe wasn't the best. Or they're movies that were really great when they were made, but they don't have necessarily the staying power that we wish that they did, simply because of the time period where they were made. There's a lot of jokes in older movies that I don't even think we even thought about. Maybe we laughed, maybe we didn't. We didn't think twice about it, but then you hear them now and you're like, ooh, that's I don't feel good about that. Because there were things that were a lot more acceptable at different points in time. And as we evolve as a society and we evolve in our opinions of how we relate to each other or what's funny and what's not, then we look back upon, older things and go, why did anybody ever laugh about that? And the thing is, we're so far removed from it now that we kind of sit here and go, I don't actually know, because I don't think it's funny anymore. I don't think there's really any that I can think of. I don't think there's any jokes like that really in Casper. But there are some topical jokes. There are some, pop culture related jokes that those force pieces of media to stay in the past because they rely so heavily on the audience being familiar with what they're talking about. But through the passage of time, that doesn't happen anymore. A good example is why Bugs Bunny eats a carrot. And it's because at the time when they were making the Looney Tunes cartoons, there was a very prominent person in Hollywood. His name was Buster Keaton, and he made movies, and he smoked a cigar, and that was kind of like his, kind of thing. And so they modeled Bugs Bunny after this Hollywood star. But obviously because he was for children, he wasn't going to smoke a cigar, so they decided, like, I don't know, he's a rabbit. Let's give him a carrot. And so that stuck. But the thing is, Buster Keaton is not a big part of Hollywood anymore. His shtick is not something that's known anymore. His jokes aren't familiar to modern audiences. But we're all familiar with Bugs Bunny eating a carrot, saying, "What's up, Doc?" And that's what it's based on. But now it's just canon that, well, Bugs Bunny eats a carrot because, like, he likes carrots. And, oh, what's up, Doc? Like, that whole thing, that's Bugs Bunny. When really it wasn't. But because of how time has changed and culture and media has evolved and changed, the references kind of die off, but the canon remains. But sometimes the canon doesn't make sense anymore because the references aren't around. I think Casper would be a really great movie. You know, they made a sequel to Hocus Pocus. I think with Casper, I don't necessarily think they need to remake it. I think they should tell the story based on, like, the comic series. There was a very prominent comic series. I even have a few issues from when I was a kid of Casper the Friendly Ghost, and he goes on different adventures and he does different things. And I definitely think that it's a property that would be a great modern franchise for younger people who are interested in the spooky without wanting that full-on terrible scare. And my son enjoyed Casper, and through a lot of it, I was watching it thinking, you know, if Hollywood really wanted to reboot something, reboot Casper and toss I'm blanking on names today. Played Wednesday Addams, is super popular in everything now. Jenna Ortega. Sorry, I had to Google that. I'm just, brain today. She'd be great. I mean, she's already taken up the mantle of Wednesday Addams, which was another Christina Ricci part, and she was phenomenal in it. And I think she would also really, lend herself well to this. And there are a whole bunch of, different actors and actresses that you could incorporate into this. If you wanted to do those little pop culture references, there are a ton of different things that you could introduce to that now. I mean, so many things that people are familiar with, so many things that are prominent now, and media now is shared so quickly and so fast that I definitely think that this is something that could be updated without throwing out the old one. But I think we could update the story, and I think there are more stories to tell with Casper, and I think it's unfortunate that we sort of, I believe Casper and Wendy might have been the last, like, big-ish movie. And then I haven't really heard anything from them. I'm sure there's probably somebody like Amazon Prime or Netflix or somebody who's been quietly making Casper movies, and there's like 30 million of them now, like The Land Before Time. But I definitely think this could be another prominent franchise, but one that's focused more towards kids. Because kids love to be scared, same as grown-ups do. It's just they need to be scared in a safe environment and in stuff that's not going to expose them to stories and images and subject matters that they're just not quite ready for, and they don't need to be ready for. So my hope here is with this little, my day 14, watching Casper, having some opinions about it. My biggest takeaway is we really need to do better by our kids with different forms of media. They like to be scared sometimes. They like, spooky things. Sometimes they like gross things. Sometimes they like serious things. Just because they're kids doesn't mean that they want sunshine and rainbows and baby songs and stuff like that all the time. Sometimes they like different things, and I think we need to be better about giving them things that they can experience along with us like that. So I'd love to know your thoughts. Maybe leave a comment down below, hit subscribe if you want to hear more of my opinions. If not, I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.